Have you ever felt the weight of judgment the moment you entered a room? The CEO was, until she swiftly turned the tables on them. The glass doors of Brentwick National Bank parted gracefully with a gentle whoosh as Lisa Hargrove entered the building. The day had stretched on endlessly. Meetings, conference calls, relentless negotiations. Her mind was utterly exhausted. Her sole desire was to take out $50,000 in cash for an impending investment. Everything is straightforward and simple. She smoothed her sleeveless beige blouse and ran her fingers through her naturally curly hair, letting out a sigh as she neared the teller. The bank was not crowded. Only a handful of customers were dispersed across various counters. A security guard slouched against the distant wall, his gaze drifting over the room with a sense of indifference. This moment should have felt completely ordinary. Lisa had been a loyal customer at this bank for many years. Her firm, Hargrove Capital Solutions, maintained several accounts with them. A substantial amount in deposits, consistent transactions, and impeccable history. As she approached the counter, an unsettling feeling washed over her, hinting that something was amiss. The teller, a woman in her mid-50s with a rigid stance and keen glasses, assessed Lisa before presenting a thin-lipped smile. "What can I assist you with today?" Lisa set her gold-embossed debit card and ID down on the counter. "I would like to request a withdrawal. $50,000 in liquid assets." The teller paused, a fleeting moment of uncertainty. Her fingers lingered above the keyboard as she stole a glance at Lisa's ID, then returned her gaze to her face. "Are you looking to withdraw? What is the cost?" Lisa raised an eyebrow. She felt disinclined to engage with this. $50,000. She inclined her body just a bit. "From my professional account. Everything is present. It shouldn't take much time." The teller's smile faded. Just a moment. Lisa let out a breath, observing the woman as she typed something in. Then her expression shifted to one of concern. She was not fond of that expression. The expression on the bank employees' faces when they encountered a discrepancy was telling. 1 minute ticked by, followed by another. The teller remained fixated on the screen, as if it contained the mysteries of existence. "Is there an issue?" Lisa inquired, maintaining a steady tone. The teller looked up, pausing for a moment. "I simply need to confirm a few details." Suddenly, rather than continuing with the transaction, the woman rose from her seat and strode away, vanishing into an office located behind the counter. Lisa drummed her fingers lightly on the glass surface. A short distance away, the security guard stood taller, his interest piqued all at once. Other tellers exchanged hushed whispers, casting subtle glances her way. She had encountered this previously. Lisa was experiencing more than just a simple delay. She was under scrutiny, but she refused to let this go unnoticed. Lisa's jaw clenched as she glanced at the time on her watch. For minutes had elapsed. There was no indication of the teller's presence. No elaboration needed. Only murmurs and fleeting looks. Her patience was dwindling. She surveyed the interior of the bank. Several customers had arrived and departed. A young man clad in a blue hoodie emerged, clutching a paper envelope, likely having just made a cash withdrawal. A mature woman at the distant counter had just completed the process of depositing a check. Timely execution. No additional confirmations. Only her. A sensation of being watched enveloped her. The security guard had approached, now positioned only a few feet away, hands folded in front of him, observing intently. Lisa inhaled deeply, striving to maintain her composure. "Excuse me," she called out to another teller, a younger man with short, dark hair, who had just wrapped up with a different customer. He glanced upward, visibly taken aback. "Certainly, how may I assist you?" Lisa pointed towards the office where the initial teller had vanished. "I have been anticipating for some time now. Could you please explain what the delay is?" The young teller fidgeted with unease. It seems she was looking to verify something with management. "What is there to confirm? This is my account, my identification, my funds. What needs to be verified?" He parted his lips to respond, yet before he could utter a word, the initial teller reappeared, striding purposefully towards Lisa with a man following closely behind her. A man in his late 40s, with a receding hairline and an air of self-importance, paused beside the counter, folding his arms with a sense of authority. Ms. Hargrove, I am Dennis Rowland, the manager of this branch. I see that you're looking to make a withdrawal? Lisa scrutinized him intently. There was an unsettling quality to his tone. Indeed, that's accurate. 50,000 from my business account. Rowland inclined his head ever so slightly, regarding her as though she had just asserted her ownership of the entire bank. Is this really for? Lisa squinted her eyes with intensity. Beg your pardon? What is the intention behind this withdrawal? Lisa emitted a brief, incredulous chuckle. Why do customers need to justify their own withdrawals? The manager remained unfazed. Significant cash withdrawals can occasionally trigger concerns. This is a precautionary step. We must guarantee that there is no questionable behavior. Lisa felt a tightness in her stomach. She had encountered tales like this previously, explored them in books, and watched videos on the internet. At that moment, she was experiencing it fully. Dennis, let's get straight to the point. I possess an account here, one that has been established for quite some time. I've withdrawn funds in the past, and I've never faced such scrutiny. Why am I suddenly being treated as if I'm engaging in something unlawful? Rowland cast a fleeting look at the teller, then let out a sigh, as though this moment was merely a bothersome interruption in his day. Understand, it's merely a matter of procedure. We must confirm a few details before we can proceed with the release of those funds. Lisa crossed her arms. All right, please confirm them, but make it swift. Rowland paused for a moment, then gestured toward the teller. Conduct a verification for any fraudulent activity on the account. Lisa tensed up. Verification of fraudulent activity? For what purpose? The teller pivoted to her computer, fingers poised to begin typing. The security guard adjusted his position, inching a bit nearer. Lisa sensed her heartbeat quicken, her tolerance teetering on the edge. Yet she refused to grant them the pleasure of witnessing her unease. They believed they held the reins of the situation. They were mistaken. Lisa stood by the counter, her arms crossed, observing as the teller's fingers danced across the keyboard. The clicking sound resonated with an intensity that seemed disproportionate. She felt the presence of the security guard looming even nearer behind her. His presence was unmistakable. He lingered, as though anticipating an impending misstep. She denied him the pleasure he sought. What's the expected duration for this? She inquired, her tone now cutting. The cashier remained focused on their task, not glancing up. Please hold on for a moment, ma'am. Lisa let out a slow breath. She orchestrated negotiations worth millions with influential investors, outsmarted competitors in the boardroom, and crafted an empire from the very foundation. And now, she found herself being treated like a fraud in the very bank where she had millions. The teller abruptly ceased her typing. The dim light from the screen illuminated her features as she stood still, her gaze fixed intently on something unseen. Rowland leaned in closer, his gaze fixed intently on her work. Lisa observed it right away. The subtle glimpse of emotion, the subtle adjustment in his posture. Something was unfolding. What is happening? Lisa urged. What seems to be the problem at this moment? Rowland paused, a moment of uncertainty hanging in the air before he finally cleared his throat. It appears that there is an inconsistency with your account. Lisa let out a derisive laugh. Inconsistency? Provide clear details. Rowland's expression held steady, yet a hint of smugness flickered in his eyes. Your request for withdrawal has been marked as potentially suspicious. Further verification will be required before we can move forward. Lisa emitted a brief, mirthless chuckle. Allow me to clarify this. Are you really accusing me of fraud? By my own initiative? The teller's shoulders tightened. Madam, we are merely adhering to the established security protocols. No, you're not, Lisa interjected with a cutting tone. You're assessing my character. I entered this place, showed my identification, my bank card, and my account details. Yet somehow I find myself labeled as a fraud risk? The atmosphere grew increasingly charged. Other patrons were beginning to take notice now. A man in his middle years stood in line, observing the interaction with keen interest. A woman with a toddler frequently shifted her gaze between Lisa and the manager, her expression tense and concerned. Lisa faced Roland again, her tone steady yet dangerous. "Tell me, Dennis, if I appeared a bit different, if I had entered this room dressed in a suit and tie, would we be engaged in this discussion?" Roland's lips formed a narrow line. "This isn't the focus of our discussion, Ms. Hargrove." Lisa maintained her focus on him. "Is it not?" Roland cast a quick look at the security guard before turning his attention back to the teller. "Please allow us a moment to make some calls without interruption. This may require a bit of patience." Lisa fixed her gaze on him. "Move aside." She had crafted a vast realm from the ground up. She had broken barriers in the finance industry, a realm where individuals like her were perpetually undervalued. She had demonstrated her worth countless times. And yet, here she found herself, being urged to take a back seat. She cast her eyes toward the counter, where her gold-embossed bank card lay idle. With deliberate care, she lifted it, tucking it away into her wallet once more. She extended her hand towards her phone. "Do you know what, Dennis?" Her voice flowed, steady and composed. "A significant error has just occurred, because Lisa Hargrove was no ordinary customer. She possessed the ability to ensure her name lingered in their memories forever." Lisa's fingers danced swiftly over her phone screen. She had decided she would no longer engage in debates with these individuals. They had already formed their opinions about her identity. They were on the brink of discovering her true identity. The phone rang twice before a well-known voice picked up. "Is that you, Lisa?" "Marcus. Please connect with the regional office of Brennwick National." At this moment, Marcus refrained from inquiring. He served as her corporate attorney for a purpose. Incisive, swift, and unyielding when the situation demands it. What transpired? Lisa's eyes darted to Roland, who was observing her intently at that moment. "I entered to make a withdrawal and out of nowhere, I'm flagged as a fraud risk. They are denying access to my funds." A moment of stillness. Then Marcus let out a sharp breath. "Understood. No further explanation needed. I am reaching out to their legal department at this moment. Remain in place." Lisa ended the call and tucked her phone away into her purse. Roland's self-assured demeanor faltered ever so slightly. "Was that an individual associated with your enterprise?" Lisa beamed with delight, a smile that lacked warmth and friendliness. "That was my legal representative. He is on the verge of engaging in a rather intriguing dialogue with your superiors." For the first time, Roland found himself pausing. The security guard fidgeted restlessly. The teller's hands moved restlessly. Lisa sensed it deeply. The transition. She had shifted from being on the defensive. Moments passed slowly. The bank had settled into a hushed calm. It was as though the whole structure sensed an impending change. Suddenly, the phone on Roland's desk began to ring. He tensed up. Lisa remained silent. He moved deliberately, his hand inching toward the receiver. "This is Roland." Stillness. Suddenly, his demeanor shifted. His jaw clenched. His gaze flickered towards Lisa, next to the teller. He returned to his desk. Lisa folded her arms, poised and expectant. "Indeed, I comprehend, sir," Roland finally whispered. Yet another moment of stillness. His complexion was fading. "Absolutely. I will take care of it right away." He ended the call. I paused for a moment. His fingers clutched the desk's edge tightly, as if he were making an effort to maintain his calm. Lisa arched an eyebrow. "Is there an issue, Dennis?" He gazed upward, and for the first time he felt a loss of control. "Miss Hargrove, I must express my sincerest apologies for the confusion that has arisen." His voice lacked warmth. Compelled. Lisa tapped a perfectly polished nail against the counter. "Is there a miscommunication? Is that really what we're naming this?" Roland's cheeks flushed with a deep hue. "Your funds are set to be released without delay. We can provide you with a private room as we complete the withdrawal process, if that suits you." Lisa emitted a brief chuckle. "Oh, so now you're interested in providing me with privacy?" You really didn't care about embarrassing me in front of your whole team just moments ago? Roland gulped with difficulty. Lisa moved in a bit, her voice dropping to a whisper meant just for him. Let me outline the forthcoming events. Please proceed with my withdrawal. Consequently, I will be terminating all my accounts with this bank. Roland's eyes grew a touch wider. Miss Hargrove, I can guarantee you that this does not reflect our usual procedures. Isn't it true that it's when individuals like myself enter this space? Lisa's voice was serene yet incisive. Roland remained silent. Lisa inclined her head just a touch. Are you aware of the total amount my company has deposited in this bank during the past 5 years? Roland remained silent. Lisa beamed with delight. $17 million. The teller's body language shifted noticeably. The security guard averted his gaze, suddenly captivated by the floor beneath him. Lisa inched forward ever so slightly. I'm curious about how your superiors will react when they discover that you squandered every last cent of that today. Roland's complexion drained of color. Lisa took a step back, repositioned her bag on her shoulder, and cast him one last glance. Please provide me with my payment now. Because Lisa Hargrove had stopped inquiring altogether. The ambience within the bank had transformed entirely. The assurance that once enveloped Roland had vanished, leaving behind a tense rigidity in his shoulders. The teller's fingers danced swiftly, a newfound eagerness propelling them to finalize the transaction that had consumed nearly an hour of their time. Lisa remained motionless, observing, anticipating. The security guard, who had been lingering nearby just moments before, had retreated, no longer observing her, no longer perceiving her as an issue that required resolution. Ms. Hargrove, the teller finally spoke, her voice now much gentler than it had been. Your withdrawal has been prepared. Lisa looked at her name tag. Meredith had likely been here for ages, probably never gave a second thought to someone like Lisa until this moment. Meredith delicately pushed the envelope over the counter, its contents a precise arrangement of 50 crisp $1,000 bills. Lisa moved slowly, scrutinizing each bill, counting them meticulously, not out of necessity, but to make them experience the sensation of being questioned, of being under observation. The stillness in the room was overwhelming. At last, she gave a nod of agreement. It appears to be correct. Meredith managed a smile, yet it did little to conceal the unease lurking beneath. Lisa faced Roland once more. Now, let's discuss the process of closing my accounts. Roland appeared as if he had just ingested shards of glass. Ms. Hargrove, I completely empathize with your frustration, and I want to personally assure you that this was negative. Lisa interrupted him. She had no interest in the damage control narrative he was hastily trying to construct. While words may not mend the situation, I feel compelled to express this. Lisa inclined her head just a touch, her voice remaining steady, composed, and authoritative. It may be wise to reflect on the approach you and your team take in circumstances like this moving forward. Next time, you could find yourselves targeting someone without the means to defend themselves, and that could lead to serious legal repercussions. Roland made no attempt to contest the matter. He understood she was correct. Lisa faced the exit, cash clutched firmly, her self-respect unshaken, prepared to leave behind what no longer served her. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. She glanced at the display. She replied, Marcus. Lisa, the regional director, just returned my call. He wishes to converse with you at once. Lisa wore a sly grin. Connect him now. And just like that, the efforts to mitigate the fallout commenced. Lisa raised her phone to her ear, sidestepping as the bank's doors approached in front of her. She sensed Roland's gaze upon her, the heaviness of his errors resting in his heart like an unwelcome burden. Ms. Hargrove, a resonant voice emerged from the speaker, refined, authoritative, and tinged with a sense of immediacy. Greetings, I am William Drake, the regional director at Brentwick National Bank. I just finished a conversation with your attorney, and I want to sincerely apologize for the experience you encountered at our branch today. Lisa allowed the silence to linger, letting him dwell in the unease of his own statements. A heartfelt apology? She finally spoke, her tone steady yet lacking enthusiasm. That's lovely. However, we must be truthful, Mr. Drake. You're not reaching out because you feel remorse. You're reaching out because you've come to understand my identity. A moment of stillness. Lisa could nearly sense his movement in the chair. Ms. Hargrove, I want to express my sincere regret regarding this unfortunate miscommunication. Misunderstanding? Lisa chuckled gently, her head shaking in amusement. It was a deliberate decision. Your staff decided to view me with suspicion, opting to treat me as if I were an outsider in my own bank. That decision has now resulted in the loss of a client. Drake let out a sharp breath. I see your frustration, and I assure you we are committed to resolving this issue. I would be pleased to take charge of managing your accounts from this point onward. Not really interested, Lisa interjected effortlessly. Stillness. Roland, remaining close by, noticeably tensed up. He was aware. Everyone was aware. Lisa strolled back to the counter, her hand lingering on the glass for a final moment. I have already communicated with my board. Effective immediately, Hargrove Capital Solutions will be terminating all accounts with Brentwick National Bank. We will transition all our resources to an organization that truly appreciates its clientele. Rest assured, my legal department will be in touch with your team soon. Wishing you a wonderful day, Mr. Drake. She ended the call. Roland appeared as though he was on the verge of expressing something, anything to redeem what remained. Lisa offered him nothing. A final look, unmistakably revealing the truth. She emerged victorious. With that, she pivoted, gliding past the security guard who had lost his imposing presence and exited the bank, cash clutched tightly, the weight of regret following her like a lingering shadow. Always be cautious not to judge others through the lens of your own preconceived notions. Do not take for granted that you can act unjustly towards another without repercussions. And above all, never evaluate a story by its exterior. At times, that one book captivates the whole library. How would you have handled Lisa's predicament? Have you ever faced unjust treatment like this? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. If the story resonated with you, be sure to like and subscribe for more impactful real-life lessons.